In fact, some of the grand designs of the Victorian London Underground were the inspiration for this set. And all of it gets blown to smithereens in the climax of the film.
Oh, it's always good to blow things up. And everyone comes to watch you blow it up. We get about 50 or 80 people just showing up with their sandwiches, sort of waiting for the button to be pressed.
The whole place is rigged to explode. All this, and that's why nobody can have their mobile phones on, because it could evidently be triggered by that. So at any given moment, the glass could go, things out the walls, everything.
So is there
sort of willing to happen.
I was going to say, is there someone on hand ready to jump on you to protect you? Do you have like a...
You, Ben.
Is that, that's
Yes,
my role today?
Yeah.
And I kept saying to John, our special effects supervisor, it's safe, isn't it, John? He said, yeah. So just tell me where all the squibs are again. And squibs are these little explosive devices. And he said, well, there are 300 around there, and there are 400... And Dan, where is Dan exactly? Dan's here, right next to all the... Yes, it's perfectly safe. So I would then go to Dan and say, Dan, it's perfectly safe.
Don't move.
Don't move, but for God's sake, don't move.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. When Harry first comes here, he's on trial, deep in the bowels of the ministry. And things aren't looking too good for him until a surprise witness turns up.
Witness for the defense. Albus Percival, Wulfric, Brown, Dumbledore.
You got our message that the time and place of the hearing had been changed, did you?
I must have missed it, but by a happy mistake, I arrived at the ministry 3 hours early.
Dumbledore manages to clear Harry's name, leaving him free to return to Hogwarts, despite the fact that the ministry refused to acknowledge that Voldemort is back.
Cornelius, I implore you to see reason. The evidence that the Dark Lord has returned is incontrovertible. He's not back.
So, with the trial over, Harry's starting to realise he's going to need all the friends he can get, no matter how kooky.
Everyone that says Luna Lovegood.
Luna's a very odd character, and I think when he first meets her, he does what everyone else does as well, which is to dismiss her as being very, very odd.
What an interesting necklace.
It's a charm, actually. Keeps away the narwhals.
Even though she's quite eccentric and everybody kind of gives her a wide berth, Harry finds himself, in a way, drawn to her, and she's able to give Harry these notes and opinions about what he's dealing with, which are really oddly helpful to him.
Well, if I were you-know-who, I'd want you to feel cut off from everyone else. Because if it's just you alone, you're not as much of a threat. Everyone says she's weird, but she's not really. She's just being completely honest about how she was brought up and what she knows.
For Harry Potter fan Evanna Lynch, winning the role of Luna Lovegood was a dream come true.
How big a fan are you?
That's hard to put into words. It's just, well, I read the books, started reading them when I was 8, and just since then, I've been obsessed with them. That's what I'm known for at home. And my room is cool. It's orange, and I have all my favourite quotes in turquoise around it.
That you've actually put on the wall yourself?
Yeah.
No way. How long has that taken?
It was my summer project.
So how did the filmmakers find Evanna?
We had 3 girls who we thought would be good, but they were going to act Luna. They weren't going to be Luna. And so we had this open call, and we put an ad on some news round in a couple of places.
My mom, she just said, I don't think you should. And she said, I'm really mean. She hates when I quote this, but she said, I had a snowball's chance in hell. But my dad, when he came home, I told him. I wasn't very hopeful, but he was like, yeah, I think you should go.
People start to show up, and it wasn't really more and more and more and more and more people. And I think we ended up with around 20,000 people. It was ridiculous. It was sort of, it was unbelievable. And people, you had 45-year-old women, you had, men. It was really quite, kind of, some of it was a little weird, I have to say.
And they made us say our name and where we came from, and I did that. And then they were whispering about us. And
was that a bit weird?
Yeah, I was so nervous because, like, I've been wanting to do that for so long, and I was just up to these two women, and just by saying your name, it seemed kind of bizarre.
There were some incredible people, but there was only one Luna.
And they said, okay, you're coming for a screen test. And I was, oh, that's good. And then they said, you're going to be doing the screen test with Daniel Radcliffe. And I was thinking, oh, it must be big then. And then the director was calling up that night, and then I started really losing. And then they rang me and they said, please don't shave your eyebrows. I said, I don't shave my eyebrows. But then my sister said, well, if they're looking at your eyebrows, it must mean you're very close. So...
What a bizarre thing to say.
I know, and I don't shave my eyebrows.
Well, why would you?
I know.
Evanna's a huge Potter fan, and knows the books inside out. Knows the books far better than any of us do.
I always get nervous about talking about anything in front of Evanna because you sort of go, oh God, if I say something that's not quite right about that, you'll pick me up on it because you know everything. So she is, if any of us ever have a question about what a spell does or what, you just go to Evanna. She's become she's like a walking book.
Harry discovers that he and Luna have a connection.
Which is that they can both see these creatures called Thestrals, which are invisible to everyone, bar those who have actually seen death.
You're not going mad. I can see them too.
With the Thestrals, as with every creature, what we start with is a series of drawings. We then take it to the maquette stage, which are basically small tabletop models like these, that are discussion points, so that what looks good on paper can then be analysed and walked around and discussed.
The designs were a great starting place, and then we as it wasn't a creature that could be fully realised and built as a sculpture, we took the designs into the computer and finished the design in the computer, working on the transparency of the skin, how transparent the wings were when they open the wings, and how much light comes through, and how black they were as well, because they're a very black, dark creature, and sort of realising that on the screen is quite difficult sometimes.
The film presented another much larger difficulty to the special effects team. His name was Grawp.
Grawp is Hagrid's half-brother.
We've really pushed the technology, we've really pushed it to what we believe is the closest sort of human CG form, because Hagrid's brother is basically the humanoid.
Grawp is 16 feet tall. An experienced large-scale puppeteer was used to give the actors an accurate position for their eye lines. But how did they create the face itself?
We cast an actor called Tony Mortley as a reference for Grawp. We did a couple of days shooting with Tony to gather facial reference for emotions and different stages of emotion, because a lot of Grawp's personality has to come through a non-speaking role, and you have to believe and empathise with him through the look in his eyes and the way he sort of looks away in a coy kind of way when he's talking to Hermione. So it was very important that we got all the subtleties and nuances into the facial performance.
A newly developed technique using computer analysis of the muscle groups in the actor's face was used to do this.
Blimey. Well, half-brother, really. He's completely harmless.
There's something very endearing about him, but Harry and Ron just find him just a bit scary, a bit disgusting, a bit, oh God.
Grawpy! Down here, you great buffoon!
But it's a monstrous thing in a small, cuddly package that they need to be more concerned about.